Good evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Last night was Monday Night Raw, and it was what I thought was a pretty good show for an episode of Raw. The Judgment Day have some serious family drama going on, and the Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar feud is resuming. So we've got a lot to get into today. So joining me to discuss all of this, first of all, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
I'm doing well. Happy 4th of July, everybody in the States. It's maybe my favorite holiday, honestly. Thanksgiving's up there, but I'm a huge 4th of July fan. Looking forward to some fireworks tonight. I had a nice little brunch this morning and stoked to get into Monday Night Raw as well.
Absolutely. And also joining us, we have Dryzzy. How are you today, Dryzzy?
I am good. Happy day to all. I am the revolutionary, as you can see. But a very good Raw. And there's so many good things. I feel like last time we spoke, I was so down on Raw, but this one, it was a really good one. They hear me talking in the background. They hear me talking. Hunter listens to us.
They do. I remember a few years ago, I made an Instagram post on something that I thought they should do on Raw, and I can't even remember what it was now, right? But it was something so specific and so out there, and then they ended up doing it. So to this day, I'm still convinced they follow us here at Wrestling Republic. But let's get right into Monday Night Raw, and let's firstly talk about Clark's favorite wrestler, Mr. Cody Rhodes. As Seth Rollins opened the show, in his typical manner with the World Heavyweight Championship, and then Cody interrupted, and everyone went wild. The idea of getting, the Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes Dream Feud continuing after their matches last year, and Cody stepped in the ring and said, "So," and before he could get, his famous catchphrase out there, Brock Lesnar returned, interrupted him, and Cody instantly left the ring and started brawling with Brock. And when all was said and done, Cody stood tall, which is the first time, I believe, in this feud when they've had a brawl that Cody has stood tall. Cody no longer has the metal arm brace, so I'm sure you'll be delighted about that, Clark. But for a brief second here, I was just delighted. I was like, well, are they doing Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam? Because if they are, I called this before Seth Rollins even won the championship a couple of months back. However, as the show went on, it doesn't seem that that's the direction it's going in. But Clark, what did you think of this opening segment? And are you excited to see your favorite feud ever continue?
I actually liked quite a bit of this one. I loved Brock interrupting Cody's catchphrase. That was great. It was awesome. Because that's not what Cody wanted to talk about, and I know that. It was not Brock Lesnar. I didn't have that on his bingo card, at least not last night. But what I still can't figure out is, so Cody had his ring gear on for this segment. Because he's getting physical with Brock, and then he comes back out later in a suit, had time to change? I don't get it.
It was an hour after, in fact.
Yeah, it's an hour later. Why is he changing clothes, though? I don't know. He's just goofy. Whatever. It's Cody Rhodes. Of course, there's always something little, like wear the suit the whole time or don't. I don't know. Were you going to have a match? Basically teased like he's going to wrestle Seth Rollins in the opening segment, out there in his gear, giving out the weight belt, ham and egging it up the whole way. And Brock comes in. I'd love to see a triple threat, but that, like you said, it's not what it looks like we're getting. And if we're getting a third edition of Brock and Cody, at least it'll be cast free, and that's a positive. We're heading in the right direction.
In life, we all have these little things which just get on our nerves, right? And everyone has these unique ones, and they're usually something like little, like not closing a cupboard or something like that, right? With Clark, it's Cody Rhodes' existence. It's just everything about the guy annoys you. Him changing his suit an hour later. What?
He breathes, and Cody, oh my God, I hate him.
Like, he went backstage and showered. He's like, I got another segment. I might as well suit up. Come on.
Oh gosh.
See Barney from from How I Met Your Mother. It's time to suit up halfway through the show.
Oh, this is ridiculous. But then after the commercial break, after Cody Rhodes went into the shower to put on his suit, Rollins tried to resume his promo. And I like that. I like it. He didn't just give up on it. And then he got interrupted again. But this time by the Judgment Day. But Finn Balor was noticeably missing. Dominic Mysterio then challenged Rollins to a match in the main event later tonight. And we'll get onto that in, a little bit. But following this segment, we then had Damian Priest taking on Shinsuke Nakamura. And this match was a very, very fun match, right? But it was a bit of a weird one, right? Because about a month or two ago, we were talking about when Nakamura returned, they were giving him, big wins. They gave him that win against Cross. They gave him a few other wins. And it was all against people who they were, building up. So it was kind of surprising at the time. But we were like, well, it's okay. They just rebuilding Shinsuke or whatever. But now Shinsuke Nakamura has lost 2 weeks in a row, so I guess that's over. But I am happy Damian Priest got the win here because, of course, he is the Money in the Bank, holder. And I've never been a fan of when they do, the Money in the Bank holder losing every single match because they've done it for years. And then as soon as they become world champion, they're suddenly unstoppable. But Drizzy, what did you think of this match?
I think it was a really good match, actually. It seems like since Finn is in a story, guess who's being designated to be the big match loser now for everybody you're trying to build up? Nakamura. Damian and Ben, what you said, historically, Money in the Bank winners lose a lot. And I think it's to try and build that you forget that they have it. So when they do win, it's a big surprise. But I actually like everything that they're doing with the Money in the Bank now because they're using it in this storyline with the Judgment Day because he wants to cash in, and his one of his cohorts in Judgment Day is a contender for the title. So it's kind of a clash of okay, who should be world champion? Damian, if you heard him at the end of Raw, was like it's all about Judgment Day, and it's kind of like Finn is it's just eating at his craw that he cannot beat Seth Rollins for that belt right now, a belt that he never lost.
That's
It's
true.
like he wants that validation. Like I know I can beat you. I've shown I can beat you, but I don't have the belt. So we have this huge issue where Damian, it's just about elevating Judgment Day. At this point in time, it feels like Damian's the leader of Judgment Day.
Yeah. No, I mean that's very true. I mean, it has kind of been, the case throughout that we've all said that Finn Balor's kind of felt the least important in the group, and Damian Priest, now that he is holding the Money in the Bank, he does feel important. And Raw for the last, well, not even for the last, it's been for the last year now almost. It has been the Judgment Day show, and now they really are across pretty much every single program. But let's now move on and let's talk about Ronda Rousey. Because, of course, Shayna Baszler turned on Ronda Rousey this past Saturday at Money in the Bank. And Ronda Rousey came out on Raw and she was not happy, understandably so. But she took the microphone, went to say something, and Shayna Baszler came out and said, Ronda, we're all sick of hearing you on the microphone. And that line was brilliant. That was my favorite line of the show. Because, of course, Ronda's got a lot of criticism about, her mic work and all of that. Shayna then said that she apologizes to everyone that, for the fact that she brought Ronda into the professional wrestling business. And it does seem a bit out of nowhere, all of this, to be honest. But the two broke out into a brawl and Shayna Baszler stood tall very comfortably. And it does kind of give you the feeling that Ronda could be leaving because Shayna was she just completely dominated her in the segment. This all feels very rushed. We don't really know what's going on, obviously, but of course, we got Clark, who was a big MMA guy. And there's been a lot of speculation on, from UFC fans and UFC media over the last couple of days that Ronda Rousey could be making a return to the octagon, with, of course, Juliana Pena being, rumored because of her recent comments about Ronda Rousey as, the two, well known to really dislike each other. But we have seen things like this with Brock Lesnar in the past, where he's, got sent out, rumors about him returning to the UFC just to get a better deal with WWE. So we don't really know particularly what's going on here. But Clark, what did you think of this segment? And do you think that Ronda could be returning to the Octagon?
I loved the segment. Baszler looked so strong and was strong on the mic. She was almost a babyface in a way. The way she dug at
she was.
Ronda, which was cool to me. You don't see that vicious of a babyface often where it really lands, and that was impressive to me. As far as the Octagon stuff, I'm fascinated by this. The idea of Ronda Rousey returning to a shot at the 145-pound belt or the 135-pound belt, whichever one, she were to decide on between the two that have now been vacated against Juliana Pena with their history. They can't stand each other. It's fascinating. But wouldn't that look like she just stayed away from Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, for all these years in the WWE before finally returning? And that's the least Ronda Rousey thing I've ever heard. So because of that, I do not see her return to the Octagon. Now, if I'm going to recklessly speculate about it, there's another company over here that just signed a former, well, not even former, some would say the current heavyweight champion of the world, the current baddest man on the planet, Francis Ngannou, the PFL, over on ESPN. And they've got a girl, Kayla Harrison, who only has one loss and has not quite had that headline fight, that blockbuster fight to send her into the lexicon. Dan Lambert has done his absolute best promoting her, but she's been in the PFL this whole time because of the fact that the weight class she fights in doesn't exist in the UFC. Ronda is someone who could fight at that weight, almost no question, 155 pounds. Kayla Harrison is the fight that I could see happening on ESPN against Ronda Rousey. That would make more sense to me in the PFL.
Fair enough. I mean, Clark, you obviously know a lot more about MMA than I do personally, but it does make a lot of sense. And yes, he did return to UFC, which is the only MMA promotion I watch. It would just look like she's just, been hiding from Nunes. It truly would be, right? Because that was the fight which a lot of people, wanted to see again. And they just
43 seconds, she got diced up.
It would. If the second she retires, she returns. Yeah, admittedly, maybe.
Yeah.
It would just like, maybe it's got nothing to do with that. It's just, the timings and all that, but it would still look like
it was just on paper, it looked too much like she was ducking Nunes too.
It would do, but I'm enjoying this feud so far in the one segment we've had, and I'm just really hoping that this version of Shayna Baszler that we get now, right, this more aggressive version of Shayna Baszler will be more like the one which we saw in in NXT, right? Because if we see that version of Shayna Baszler on the main roster, she could be a big star for the company, and what I kind of always thought that she would be. She obviously loves pro wrestling. She said it over and over again, right? And she's done everything that, the company's wanted her to do. So I would like her to have, a run with a world title on the main roster. I would absolutely like to see that. But talking about women's wrestling now, let's move on to the Women's Tag Team Championships, as there was a tag team turmoil match last night to find the new number one contenders for Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez's women's championships. And Indy Hartwell made her main roster debut out of nowhere. She was not really introduced. They vaguely kind of touched on it, but they didn't make a big deal out of it. And I was kind of annoyed about this, right? Because Indy Hartwell was called up as the NXT Women's Champion. Yes, she was injured, but for her to just be called up, making her debut in a way like this, I did not like it one bit. And she teamed with Candice LeRae, and of course that makes a lot of sense, right? For anybody who watches NXT, the way and all of that. Maybe they could and probably should have explained it a bit better to the casual fans. But then the duo were quickly defeated by Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, right? And I was just not a fan of this because if you're gonna have call India Hartwell up randomly, not call her up randomly, she's been called up, but you're gonna debut her randomly like this. Well, at the very least, have her win or go far and have a good showing. They got squashed in like 2 minutes against the team who keep losing in their title shots for the Women's Tag Team Championships. But Nikki Cross was strangely teaming with Emma in this match. And once Candice lost, Nikki Cross was just so devastated about the fact that Candice was hurt that she didn't help Emma. So then Emma lost too. That was weird. But then we had Tegan Nox and Dana Brooke. And I've just mentioned Emma and Nikki Cross, but if there's an even stranger tag team than Emma and Nikki Cross, it's Tegan Knox and Dana Brooke. It's just so random, and they quickly then lost to the Karens on Monday Night Raw as well. The Karens then defeated Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, which surprised me as well because, they're an actual established tag team, right? When they were called up, I was like, well, finally, you have a, established tag team that's come up through the ranks in NXT and is now an established tag team in the women's division in WWE, which is something which has been non-existent. And then you have them squashed well, not squashed, but beaten quite quickly by the tag team who just defeated 3 other tag teams and have lost for the titles about 10 times at this point. They've actually, and this is a legitimate stat, in the last 6 months had title shots, more women's tag team title shots than Roman Reigns has had title defenses. I don't get this. I was not a fan. I mean, the match itself was, I guess, fine, but I mean, if they didn't have so many shots, title shots over the last few months, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, it's fine. Chelsea Green, Sonya Deville, I'm glad that they're having some direction for them. But they keep losing over and over and over again. They keep losing. And now Indy Hartwell was made to look like rubbish in this match. There was just a bunch of random tag teams thrown together. And then the one established tag team you buried them as well. I did not like this. But Drizzy, what were your thoughts on the match?
So I seen one big story throughout the match, and you had 2 established teams and 2 thrown together teams that kind of all intertwine with each other. So when we'll start with Candice and Indy, it's been how long since they teamed together? So it makes a little sense that they would lose to the team that's been together for a little bit longer, that's been going consistently together. The I guess they don't have a name, do they?
Candice LeRae and all
No,
the,
not Candice and Indy. I'm talking about the Karens. The Karens.
Yeah, the Karen. I just call them the Karens, but no, I think they are just still Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville.
Chelsea and Sonya have been teaming together even long before the draft, so they have some momentum on their side. And honestly, in this entire thing, they're the only ones that had some momentum. When you get to the Nikki Cross Emma thing, Nikki Cross is intertwined in the Candice thing. So Nikki, after Candice was eliminated, she's concerned, goes and looks at Emma, and Emma's just trying to find her footing again because she's been out of the loop after being out of WWE for so many years. So that makes sense for them to lose to the Karens. You then go to Tegan and Dana Brooke. Very few remember Dana Brooke's most tag team success was with Mandy Rose and with Emma. In fact, when she came into WWE, she was teaming with Emma.
Yeah,
I
right.
do believe that they are going to make their way back around to that and hopefully get Emma and Dana back together. And that's another tag team that makes sense and has history. Tegan, she's always seen more of a whenever she's teaming, it's either going to be with Candice or Dakota. And since these are those things that happen anytime soon, she's going to be like a man on the island for a little bit. Can Candice, Cadence Carter and Katana Chance.
Yeah.
If I'm correct, they beat the Karens a couple of weeks ago.
I
So
believe cleanly, yes.
Yeah.
So they're 1-1. So
But the Karens had just been fighting for 20 minutes.
they have, but it's also a momentum thing. You know, when you're in the playoffs or something, the team that's normally constantly going, they kind of run through people for a little bit if they get a good head of steam. And I kind of feel like that's what happened in this match, and that's why I kind of enjoyed that story of it. Now, do I believe that they're gonna beat Liv and Raquel? Probably not. But what this match did was kind of put stories in the women's tag division. The one thing we have been asking for a while now. They've kind of built one now. You have teams that can happen, and you already have 2 legit teams that were in this that have their momentum now. Now, if the way keeps going, you get Emma and Dana. If you get Nikki Cross with somebody, if they want to keep on going with that storyline, that's one storyline outside of the tag titles right there. And You have the three teams that are circling trying to get the tag titles. It wouldn't surprise me if we had like a triangle. This is me fantasy booking, but a SummerSlam women's triangle ladder match with Liv and Raquel, the Karens, and Cadence Carter and Katana Chance.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. I mean, here's the thing, right? How you just explained it, Drizzy, I think that was brilliant. I think, the way in which you explain the booking, it makes a lot of sense, right? But the thing is, I don't think WWE, well, they didn't explain it that way. And if they end up explaining it that way, that's another thing. And if they execute the booking like you said, and everything then ties into each other going forward, that'll be excellent. I'll eat my words on it. But I just feel like what's gonna happen from this situation is we don't see Indy and Candice for a few more weeks or whatever. Then at some point they'll resume the Nikki Cross and Candice stuff. Emma will probably maybe get thrown into an impromptu tag match with something against them, and Tegan Knox and Dana Brooke just will not be seen. I feel like that's probably, to be honest, the more likely situation.
It is. It is most likely, but it is. But they. I don't know if they realize that they've laid the groundwork for a lot of storylines.
That's what I was going to say. Is I'm hoping this in hindsight turns out to be a foundational segment for a nice run for the women's tag division, because what you presented, that's brilliant. That's exactly the. If I could choose, I would say do that. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's how to save that right there, right? And if that is the plan to them all along, fair enough. But we're going to have to wait and see. But now let's move on to the next topic, which is also in the women's division, right? And this was something which I'm not going to complain about, which is surprising because going into this, I thought I would be complaining about it. And that was Rhea Ripley versus Natalya. Now, this feud has just been the biggest filler feud ever, right? It's just been a bit bad. But this match was fantastic. Rhea Ripley and Natalya did fantastic throughout it. Natalya attacked Rhea Ripley, which is, of course, what Rhea Ripley did to Natalya when she was walking down to the ring a few weeks back. So it was like it came full circle. And just everything about this was fantastic. Whoever produced this segment, well done to them. The last few weeks, a lot of people in the Instagram wrestling community have been saying, oh, Natalya can't wrestle, or Natalya, she isn't that good. And I told them, last week I went on a rant about this. And I said, you don't know what you're talking about. She's been great, right? She's given everything to this company. And she paved the way for a lot of people. And I don't actually think she gets the respect that she deserves for that. I really don't. But this match was fantastic, and it showed people that Natalya really can go. Of course, Rhea Ripley ended up getting the win. That was how it should be. But yeah, they went to absolute war, these two. And part of me actually thought that Io Sky was going to cash in because of, how Rhea Ripley's not locked in that much trouble for a good while now. So I was partially expecting an Io Sky cash in. Of course, after the match, Io Sky had a little bit of an encounter with Rhea Ripley backstage. But overall, this was a very, very fun match. But I just hope now they have some direction for Rhea Ripley to go. But Clark, what did you think about this match?
It's really funny. I watched it with a friend of mine he's a casual fan, right? Watched it growing up, and we'll watch pay-per-views every now and again. He'll come over for the Royal Rumble and whatnot. And we were just watching it last night. And Natty comes, running out to attack Ripley, and he goes, "Oh, wait, from the Hart family, right?" And I go, yeah, her dad was Jim the Anvil Knight. Hart. He goes, "Oh, that's really cool." And it's one of those things that you always forget because Natty gets unfairly criticized often, that she still is a Hart Dynasty member and has paved the way for half this women's division that we're seeing today. She put on a show last night in this match, deservedly so. I enjoyed it a ton. I enjoyed it more than I even expected by a lot. Right, Ben? Like you touched on that. I enjoyed so much of this match. I hope it's actually a springboard for Natty as well as it is just another win for Ripley. I don't know who's next for Ripley, though, on the roster now. We saw so much of the roster wrestle between this match and that one. We know that Becky Lynch and Trish are still embroiled in a storyline, right? Yeah. Like Damage Control, maybe. I don't know. It's interesting. Outside of Io Sky,
they can't. They won't SmackDown.
That's what I mean. Holding the briefcase and maybe Io Sky using the briefcase to switch brands. I don't know who else is in play. That's where I'm struggling to come up with the next name. And that's the only thing coming out of this segment that makes me a little nervous, but I really, really enjoyed it and was surprised by how much I did.
Well, coming out of the last week or so, going into Money in the Bank, I was kind of like, well, I can't believe Liv and Raquel are back as a tag team against straight away title shot because they've been teasing Raquel versus Rhea. And of course, Liv and Raquel made the save last night. So I do have a feeling it could be maybe Raquel versus Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam, but then the women's tag team titles wouldn't be defended if that was the case. They kind of boxed themselves into a corner really, really badly. There, we've got a couple of comments which I haven't looked at. Firstly, we've got one from David. Shout out to David, and he's in Spain now. I hope you're enjoying your holiday, David. We've got Chaos in the comments saying, great vlog for Money in the Bank, Ben. Thank you, Chaos. And of course, your vlog. Chaos's vlog is now up on the Wrestling Republic YouTube channel, so make sure to check that out after the daily broadcast as well. Check out
after,
both
not
vlogs.
now.
Yeah, not now, after the show.
Don't switch it.
After the show, both our vlogs, two different perspectives. You've got to check them both out. They're both brilliant. But Dryzzy, what about you? Who do you think will be challenging Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. It looked like they were setting up for Raquel versus Rhea at SummerSlam, and I was very against that. I don't know if there's any other things they can really add in. It's because it seems like the rest of the women's division is going to be in stuff. So she might just get this pay-per-view off again. I don't know, and then hit hard for the next couple of months because this was like her first real defense in a while.
Yeah, she just hasn't really done anything.
Right, and I know it's more so because she doesn't have anybody to go against because they have everybody in the tag team division, or if they're not in the tag division, they're in their own separate storyline. So it's no idea. No idea. If I had to book her in a match, I would have Bailey just come over and say, "Hey, I want to challenge you for your belt," and that be the platform that springs. The draft is dead. The brand split is dead. There is somebody from the other show on the other show every day.
I mean, apart from the Money in the Bank holders, I guess now I don't think we'll be seeing it as much. But like we saw it a lot because of the Money in the Bank match. But now that that's happened, I'm at least hoping we won't see that as much. But I think the real issue is,
I think it's sad but true.
Yeah, mate. I mean, we'll get onto this in a second as well. But I think they just really messed up with the draft this year. I think that's why they put themselves in a bad position. Raw has just been completely screwed over in this draft, right? They've given them no established, top female competitors apart from Becky Lynch, but she's feuding with Trish Stratus, so that's just out of the question for months and months. In the men's division, which is what we'll get into in a second, there's just no main eventers apart from Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. And Cody, they're trying to keep away from Seth because they're probably going to have a rematch with Roman down the line. And then the one other person they had, Drew McIntyre, well, they had him return, and they had him returned in a mid-card title feud. So now you just are completely screwed.
And you know what makes it worse? The mid-card belts are way more wanted now than Seth's belt. Like, yeah, everybody wants to wrestle Seth just to wrestle Seth.
Yeah,
but
we're about to get into
Gunther's
that
belt.
I got some stuff to say about that match last night.
Let's you know what? Let's get right into it then, right? Seth freaking Rollins took on Dirty Dominic Mysterio. So now calling him Dirty Dom officially, and that is quite funny. I don't mind that.
Formerly Clean Dom.
Yeah, he was formerly clean. He's now dirty after going to jail. But they had, an all-right match for whatever it was, I guess. And then it ended in DQ, obviously, because, Damian Priest took out Seth Rollins, started beating him down because he wanted to cash in Money in the Bank. Dominic Mysterio was perfectly happy for this to happen because I think he knew that he was, going to get beaten very quickly by Seth Rollins if the match carried on. And so he was helping he was helping Damian Priest take out Seth Rollins. Seth kind of, managed to get a super kick in on Damian Priest and kind of turn the momentum around. But then Dominic helped out. And then it went into Priest's favor once again. And Damian was about to cash in Money in the Bank. And then Finn Balor comes out of nowhere and starts taking out Seth Rollins himself. Damian Priest is then like, what are you doing? I'm trying to cash in Money in the Bank. And Finn's like, well, you know what? I was about to win the title the other day and you stopped me. And then they were arguing on all of this. Seth Rollins managed to escape. Dominic was like, guys, they're trying to escape. Come on, guys. Dominic decides to do it himself, tries to get Seth Rollins, ends up, taking a pedigree on the floor. Dominic's out for the count. Seth Rollins escapes. Rhea Ripley's distraught. Finn Balor, to be honest, Finn Balor didn't even look like sad for Dirty Dom, but Damian Priest looked very upset that Dominic was hurt. And I think these guys need some family therapy. I think we need that therapist back from the Kane and Daniel Bryan feud because, it's just in disarray at the minute. Let's firstly, before we get on to who Seth could actually face at SummerSlam, let's firstly get on to this match itself. Drizzy, what did you think of Seth Rollins versus Dirty Dom?
It was a typical Dominic Mysterio match, and a typical heel Dominic Mysterio match. Seth and Dom have faced so many times now, and Dom looked so much better in those other matches than he did in this one. And eventually they're gonna have to start giving him a move set. It's not enough that you can just hide behind Rhea in the Judgment Day. You have to have some type of heel move set. I know a lot of the moves that he did as originally as the face were flashy. Everybody, it's things to make people want to cheer. The face, they do things to make people get up and they want to cheer you. But as a heel, you're supposed to be cold, calculating moves that just shut people up, kind of. They're gonna have to give him something more than hiding, stomping, and doing a frog splat and doing Eddie Guerrero's moveset. They have to.
Yeah.
It was a typical Mysterio match. This could have been at the beginning of the show. If you switch Damian and Shinsuke for Seth and Dom, you probably got an even better show.
Yeah, no, it is true. It was a bit of a mediocre main event, but it was, I guess, it advanced this Judgment Day storyline. But I mean, Clark, you said you had some stuff to talk about this. So Clark, what do you want to talk about?
I've got a big announcement. I hate to say this, but Dirty Prison Dom isn't fun anymore. It's not fun anymore. You can give him Eddie Guerrero's haircut all you want. You can grow that mullet as long as you'd like. The fun has worn away. He basically got all but squashed by Cody Rhodes, who did start the match with a cast and ended it without one. But it only took the one crossroads, and we know it usually takes 1,000 of them for somebody to take the 1, 2, 3. But he got the clean pin based off just one. And only a night and a half later, he's challenging for the world title.
It wasn't a world title match.
So it was a non-title match. Even then, cost the match by his own teammate, who he's then trying to convince to cash in still. Come on, man. If Eddie Guerrero is in that spot and not Dominic Mysterio, you think he's happy about the idea of Damian Priest catching in and not the idea of him beating the world heavyweight champion? Heel, babyface, or not? Please. And then you add Finn to the equation, which I enjoyed. That's fine. But let's be honest, the Finn and Priest thing is just going to be a feud over the briefcase along the way. So stop teasing like you're going to cash in when we know you're not now. Right?
Well,
it's like an instant replay of what we saw Saturday night. He wasn't going to cash in. Then he said in the press conference, oh, no, I wasn't going to cash in. I was there to help him. Yeah, he stood up, though, when the coup de grace was about to be hit. And that's good storytelling in and of itself. But we didn't have to see the instant replay of it in a non-title match with Dominic Mysterio in the main event.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not fun anymore. Dom can be fun or he can be serious. But this, like, between the two where it's supposed to be fun and serious, and to Drizzy's point, have some heel moves. Eddie had them.
That's
be
true.
A heel.
That's true. I mean, I'm going to quickly try and argue for the case of Dominic, right? Because, I mean, firstly, he's 26 years old, right? I think the long-term storyline for him here, right, is he's currently a coward. He currently thinks he has to hide behind Rhea Ripley, right? He's currently, He's just a complete coward, basically. And I think where they're going is, and I think they're going to build this quite slowly, right? I think at next year's Mania, they're going to run back Rey Mysterio versus Dom again. But I think by that point, right? So what, 7 months from now, I think Dominic's going to be a full-fledged heel, not a coward anymore, a proper, badass heel. I think that's what they're going. And then eventually, I think they're going to turn him into a face. I think it's going to be a very slow storyline, and really slowly develop his character. And if they do that, which I'm 99% sure they will do, because Rey Mysterio he didn't say the prison parts and the Judgment Day parts and all this, but he said this storyline before Dominic debuted in WWE. Yeah. He literally said he was like, we should team and then he should turn heel and then I should eventually give him the mask. So I think there is a long-term plan for Dominic, which is why I don't hate this, right? As for the fact that it's not fun anymore, I will dispute that claim in just one sentence just by saying, listen to the crowd. He goes out there, he says a word, the crowd boo, it erupts with boos. Right, but I do agree with you at the same time. How is he now suddenly in the main event after losing tons of other matches? I'll agree with that point. I will, but I'm not saying it's I'm not saying he's in the mud, at least at this point.
Not yet.
Yeah, who knows? If maybe by next year's Mania he still
had it
behind
behind is getting better though. I got to give him credit. It's close. That's an impressive amount of hair growth. Yeah, I mean, I remember him at a young age with the bleached buzz cut, shaking the ladder with Eddie and Ray. He's come a long way since then. That really does look like 90s Eddie.
Oh, it does as well. And I think he's currently in the stage now where he's just trying to, he's trying to be, at first he was trying to be his father. Now he's trying to be Eddie Guerrero. And then he's just got to realize he's got to be himself. And I think that's when he's going to go into a full heel and then into a face from there. Or at least
he needs to get the Head and Shoulders deal.
I think that's the issue with that's the issue with a lot of second generation wrestlers. They try not to be who came before them. They try not to be who they get mentored by. They're trying to just find their own way.
To be honest, I think that's kind of the brilliance. It's a great point. I think that's kind of the brilliance of Randy Orton. He came out. There was nothing cowboy about him. There was outside of the Orton name, there was nothing similar at all. Right? There was no comparison. And he. So I mean. To the point where we barely even talked about it other than just him being a multi-generational talent. I'm not even sure they said Cowboy Bob's full name. They just mentioned that he's third generation until he finally got involved in the Undertaker storyline during the Legend Killer era. But in that time, it still looked like Randy was the star because Cowboy Bob's using the cast and right. I think Bob Orton deserves almost as much credit for that as Randy does. That was very well thought out from both sides. He never overshadowed him. I mean, we hear Charlotte talk about, she loves her father, but him overshadowing things, getting involved, things like that. And, I think the gold standard in that scenario is Cowboy Bob and Randy because they really handled that as well as you could.
No, that is a great point. But then coming out of this now, we're in the big situation of, who's Seth Rollins, the world champion, going to face at SummerSlam? And like I said, at the start of the show, I was thinking, well, they do a triple threat with Cody and Brock, and I still think that's probably what they should have done. I do. But I think what they're actually going to do is Seth Rollins versus Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. And I don't like this. And I'll tell you the reason why I don't like this. It's very simply because the Money in the Bank, winner is already getting a title shot. So, I mean, what happens if he wins the title? Well, now is he going to, tease it? He's going to cash in on Roman or whatever? Or is it perhaps that Finn will win? And then after the match, Damian will cash in on him. There's a few things you can do, and maybe some of them would work. But there's also, there's a lot of different storylines that could play out following this, which would just be awful. And, knowing recent Money in the Bank booking, I do feel that it could be one of the awful ones. But I'm just hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that they have something up their sleeves for Seth. But I do think that there's going to be this triple threat. I mean, what would you think about that, Dryzzy?
I don't want the triple threat. Even though there has been instances where number one contenders have been the Money in the Bank contender has been a number one contender before. I don't want that match. For SummerSlam, in true WWE fashion, Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. Except this time it's Demon. because normally the way it goes, normal Finn Balor loses, Demon comes back the next pay per view. So
I'd
it
hate
don't
that. Because he said it
it
was
does
dead in his promo last week.
Finn's 0-2 with the Demon the last two.
yeah.
I'd hate that.
That first one had there was an actor guy that messed that one up.
Yeah, they need the re-Demon. He
Even
needs
Well,
to redeem the
even
Demon.
though with that first Demon with against Roman, I was kind of into the whole when he's knocked out, the lights go red and his heartbeat, and he instantly the music starts playing, and he's just going on a rampage before God decides to
That
nope.
was wild.
They still never.
Oh.
That's one of my wrestling mysteries. They need to explain why did God stop Finn Balor from beating Roman Reigns?
Reigns. Yeah, he broke the rope.
Oh, that was such a weird
Weird
ending
one.
to a match. Unique but weird. But I mean, the one condition I'd be okay with Seth versus Finn is if they say it's in Hell in a Cell. Right? They say, well, there were so many, things this time, and Finn says, I want to
Lock
face
everybody
you.
out.
And
Yeah.
everybody's locked out. Just Finn versus Seth. Finn and Seth both have experience in Hell in a Cell. Yes, I mean, Finn's not had a good record in it, but I mean, that's something. But again, I think it's lousy for a stadium SummerSlam.
Sorry, by the way, I
prefer
got
Logan
excited
Paul.
there. I didn't mean to jump in on you on the. I'm like, yes, lock everyone out. That's genius. But I will say this. How about this idea? We've talked about two different good or bad triple threat ideas for Seth. How about this one? How about Riddle and Orton? How about that's how we
Orton's
bring
not here.
Orton back? We bring Orton back though. We tease Riddle versus Seth, and then we bring Orton back to turn on Riddle, and then maybe Damian cashes in after that. They do the classic. He loses early on the card, and then he comes in and cashes in on whoever it is. That's how maybe you get Orton to 14.
Well, I mean, I'd like that, but the thing is, they're already doing this new Riddle feud when he's
I
with
know.
against Imperium with Drew McIntyre, and they're doing that next week. So then you'd only have two, maybe
Yeah, I
three if you
forgot
did
it's
on the
that
same Raw.
close.
Yeah, I mean, they're just in a rubbish situation here, aren't they? Like, I mean, this is bad booking, to be honest with you.
It's brutal.
And I praised WWE a lot this past year, and like I said, I've complained a lot on this episode about the booking of Raw going forward, like the booking of WWE going forward from this episode. But the actual episode I loved. I thought it was a really enjoyable 3-hour show. But come on, guys, this is SummerSlam now, and we don't have a director for the world
It was a
title.
little bit like they booked through Money in the Bank in London, and we're just kind of like, oh shoot, like SummerSlam is only it's closer than we realized. Like,
And it's in a
whoops.
stadium that they
Yep.
haven't sold out.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, we really put a lot of work into Money in the Bank.
It's all right. Money in the Bank's done. All right, what's next, guys?
Shoot.
Oh, SummerSlam. When's that? 5
Oh,
weeks.
man.
What?
Yeah, wait a minute. We still have to do SummerSlam, guys.
Oh no. But yeah, I don't know what the direction is. You know what? Maybe do Jinder Mahal versus Seth Rollins in Punjabi prison. That is what I would book, right?
It is gonna happen. It is gonna happen.
Let's
Please
do it.
no.
We've spoken it into existence. I'm for it. I'm genuinely for
Is
it.
that
right?
cage metal or wood? Someone explain
think-
that to me.
It's wood.
I
It is
think
wood.
it's
I think it's all bamboo. I
I
think.
think
It's
it's
very
wood.
expensive as well.
No,
It's the most
I think it's-
expensive cage ever made.
I think it's wood painted metal.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
looks great.
no. Oh
It
no,
still
no,
looks-
no, no, no.
I'm
I'm gonna
like,
have to search
really-
that
Well,
up.
you know
I'm
what?
really
It has to
confident
be.
it's wood painted metal.
It has to be because if
Yeah.
it's big enough for the Great Khali to
Ali, Big
climb,
Show climbed it. Batista climbed it. Taker climbed it. There's no way it's wood. I'm not buying it. Bamboo? It would break.
I mean,
It's got to be wood painted metal. I'm so curious.
I am too. I'm trying to find out right now.
I've
I'm like,
always wanted to ask, like somebody that would. I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess I
How
could have
is
googled it all
the-
these years, but that's
how
one
is
that's
the-
fascinating to me.
No, it is made of bamboo. I mean,
Real
actually, that's
bamboo?
not surprising. Bamboo is really strong. Bamboo is
Okay.
really, really strong. That's not surprising at all. But
There's
it's
no
also, I know
metal?
this, it's the most expensive cage WWE have ever made.
Is
because
it
of that.
metal reinforced bamboo?
Oh, well, that's another question. But guys, that brings us to the end of the show today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Dryzzy and Clark for joining me. If you're on YouTube, please leave a like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, a cheeky 5 stars would help massively. We'll be back tomorrow an hour earlier, 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 12 p.m. Pacific to preview AEW Dynamite. Thank you everyone for watching, and make sure to check out both mine and Chaos's vlog from Money in the Bank. We'll see you guys tomorrow.